Yesterday, a Chinese AI model quietly took the #1 spot on a public coding leaderboard, above Claude Fable 5. That's the headline everyone ran with. But look at the tag next to it, preliminary. And the company that made it published its own benchmark table, and buried in that table is a concession almost nobody reported. We'll put it on screen in a few minutes, because the real story here isn't the leaderboard, it's the price. The cheapest AI lab in the world just became one of the most expensive. First, who did this? It's Moonshot, the Beijing lab behind Kimi. Yesterday they shipped Kimi K3, a mixture of experts model, 2.8 trillion parameters, a 1 million token context window, multimodal, 2 versions at once, K3 Max for chat and agents, and K3 Swarm Max for running things in parallel. It's on Open Router right now, $3 in, 15 out. Hold on to those two numbers. They're the whole story. But before the announcement, it showed up somewhere else, on a public testing arena under a codename Kivine. No lab attached. Arena watchers guessed it was Moonshot. If that sounds familiar, it should. In March, Xiaomi ran a model in stealth as Hunter Alpha. In June, Meituan ran Longcat as Owl Alpha. Now Moonshot as Kivine. 3 frontier models in 5 months, each one live and tested in public before anyone knew whose it was. Last episode, I said that pattern deserved its own video. This is that video. So here's the leaderboard, the headlines used. Arena's web development arena, real people, blind votes, ranking models on front-end coding. Kimi K3, first, 1679, above Claude Fable 5, above GPT 5.6 Sol, above GLM 5.2. For a Chinese open-weight model on a public human preference board, that is a genuinely big deal. And now the 2 words the headlines cropped out. Preliminary, 1,700 votes and counting. This is a snapshot, not a verdict. Now the price. Kimi K3 cost $3 per million tokens in, 15 out. Their last model, K2.6, 3 months ago, 95 cents and $4. K3 is roughly triple the input and nearly 4 times the output. This is the most expensive model any Chinese lab has ever shipped. And to feel how strange that is, you have to remember what this channel has been documenting all along. For 2 years, the entire story of Chinese AI was same capability, a fraction of the price. DeepSeek served a frontier model for 87 cents per million tokens out. Kimi K3 charges 15. That's not a small gap. That is 17 times DeepSeek's price, from a lab in the same country, the same year. The cheap China story that scared Silicon Valley all last year, Moonshot just walked away from it. The question is why. Part of the answer is what's under the hood. K3 is built to think before it answers. On every call, always-on reasoning is expensive to serve. And that 1 million token context window isn't free either. Holding that much text in memory per request costs real money. Moonshot isn't pricing K3 like a loss leader to grab market share. They're pricing it like a company that thinks the model is worth it. Whether the market agrees is a different question. And there is real engineering here, the kind this channel exists to explain. K3 activates just 16 of 896 experts for any given token, an unusually sparse design, a lot of specialists, very few awake at once. Its attention mechanism, which they call KDA, they claim decodes more than 6 times faster at million token lengths, and a training trick they call attention residuals, their number, 25% more training efficiency for under 2% extra compute. Their numbers, measured in-house, remember that. Which brings us to the concession I promised you. Everything so far is the story Moonshot once told. Here's the part their own benchmark table admits. If you read the whole thing, on their own numbers, K3 beats Claude Opus 4.8, it beats GPT 5.5, and it loses to Claude Fable 5 and to GPT 5.6 Sol. The independent scorers agree. Artificial analysis ranks K3 fourth in the world for intelligence. A strong result, but behind Fable 5, not ahead. So beats Fable 5 is true, on exactly 1 leaderboard, marked preliminary. Everywhere else, their own table, the independent index, it sits behind Fable 5, not ahead. So is this hype? No. And here's the honest version. 4th in the world, against every model OpenAI and Anthropic can build, from a lab most people hadn't heard of 2 years ago. On long horizon work, artificial analysis clocked K3 more than 700 ELO points above their own previous model in 3 months. You can argue about whether it beats Fable 5 today. You cannot argue with the slope. Something in Beijing is closing the gap very fast. But here's what you cannot actually download yet. Moonshot calls K3 open weight. Go to their model page right now, and it isn't there. K2, 5, K2, 6, K2, 7. No K3. The weights, the license, the model card, all promised for July 27th, with a technical report to follow. So today, open source is an IOU last episode, a company that said weights coming soon and delivered 4 days later. This is the same move on an 11-day clock. We'll be there when it opens. And there's one number nobody even asked about. What did they train it on? Which chips? Whose silicon? How many? 2 years ago, that was the only question anyone asked about a Chinese model. Today, silence, and nobody's demanding an answer. Maybe the technical report on the 27th says. Maybe it doesn't. But notice that the chip question, the one export controls were built around, has quietly stopped being the headline. That itself tells you where this is going. So let's be straight about what Kimi K3 is. It is right now one of the 4 smartest models on Earth by independent measure. It is fast improving. It leads one real public leaderboard. And it is expensive. It is not the outright frontier. Its weights are not out, and its best numbers are its own. Both of those lists are true at the same time. A channel that only reads you the first list is selling you something. We read you both. Zoom out, and 2 things happened at once this year. Chinese labs started launching in stealth. Deploy first, reveal later, let the benchmarks argue before the logo shows up. And they stopped competing only on price. Kimi K3 isn't trying to be the cheap option. It's charging Anthropic money and asking to be judged as an equal. For a country whose whole AI reputation was good enough and cheap, that's the real shift, not one leaderboard, the ambition behind the price tag. 3 things will tell us if K3 is what the hype says. 1. July 27th. Do the weights in the technical report actually ship, and what do they admit? 2. Independent evals. When the neutral score is finished, does that number 1 hold, or was it the preliminary tag talking? 3. The chips. If that report names the hardware, it's the most important line in it. This channel will read all 3 out loud when they land. For 2 years, China's answer to American AI was cheaper. Kimi K3 is the moment that answer changed to just as good and priced like it. The leaderboard crown is 1 board and a preliminary tag. The price tag is the tell. And there's one more piece of this story we owe you, because while these labs race, Washington found a way to make money every time a chip crosses the Pacific. 25% of it, in fact. That's next. Subscribe, and we'll read you the receipts.